I got to the point where I was like, I feel like I just need to like get back out there and do this by myself. And I think growing up and kind of referencing back to like the days that I would like go back in my creek and I would just explore all by myself and like no one knew where I was. Didn't have like a GPS tracker, didn't have anything like that. But there was something really, really beautiful about that, just spending time with myself and kind of having those more reflective, quiet moments that I think I was just really hungry for again. And realizing that like I wanted something that was going to kind of challenge myself and get myself out of my comfort zone.
Welcome. This is Lauren Stites, and you are listening to Her Side of the Trail. This episode, I'm speaking with Emily Zarnow. Emily shares her story about transitioning from day hiker to backpacker and then eventually solo backpacker. Emily has hiked all over California, and she shares some of her favorite trails this episode. So let's get into it. Hi, Emily. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad to have you here to talk about backpacking and like solo backpacking specifically. How's everything going?
Good, good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for taking the time to have me on.
Yay, I can't wait. I love talking about hiking,
Yeah.
obviously.
What else?
So. So where are you located?
Yeah, I'm actually in Los Angeles,
Oh,
California.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of, I guess there's a lot of great hiking right there. I always see some really beautiful trails
Yeah,
around the
yeah.
mountains there.
That's the great thing I've come to really love about living in Los Angeles that I think was very unexpected to me when I moved here 15 years ago was just like you still have this very urban, city life, but half hour from where I live, I can get up into the mountains like Angeles National Forest and Big Bear and all that kind of stuff. So it's really a great place to be.
Now, growing up, were you an outdoorsy person? Did you guys get out hiking a lot or camping or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I don't think at the time when I was younger, I thought of myself as like particularly outdoorsy. I grew up in Ohio, so where
Nice
I
place,
live,
though. Lots of good parks
yeah,
there.
yeah, great. And like again, it's like one of those things that you didn't really realize that I had until I left. And when I was younger, when we lived in Atlanta, Georgia, so there was like a lot of beautiful Midwestern, Southern areas that like we could go out and get into the forests or lakes and things like that. But I explored a lot like by myself. We had a creek in our backyard in middle school, and
Oh,
like
how
I
fun is
loved,
that?
yeah, it was amazing. I just loved going back there, and I would always take my camera with me, and I was always kind of shooting and making forts and like trying to catch fish and tadpoles with my hands, just things like that that I don't think I was thinking of myself as like I'm an outdoorsy person. It was just
Yeah,
me like
yeah. But naturally,
exploring,
you just were.
yeah,
Yeah.
imagination and all of that. But I was a camp counselor for about 7 years at a YMCA camp down in Burlington, Kentucky, which is just like right
Oh,
over the river
fun.
from Cincinnati, Ohio. Yeah. So, and again, it was one of those things where working at a camp, I don't think I was like, this is outdoorsy. It was just a part of like every every summer what I did, and but I think it was definitely like a catalyst for things to come in the future for sure.
Now you did a lot of day hiking. That's what I like to do. I like the
Yeah.
day hiking because I like to come home and be in my nice comfy bed when I'm all done for the
Yeah.
day. And that's kinda how you started out, right? With
Mhm.
with all your hiking.
I
And
did.
then you transition, then you're like, "I'm gonna try backpacking." And when did you start doing that then?
It was kind of a happy accident. And like I said, when I was a camp counselor, it's so funny because it was all just nothing we didn't think twice about anything. Or just like this is what we're doing. This is and so when I was working at the summer camp, every week, once a week, we would take our kids out because it was like a weekly sort of segment with the kids. And we would take our kids out. There would always be an overnight back or like an overnight camp trip. And we wouldn't like necessarily like load our packs up and carry our gear, but we would, we were literally like carrying our sleeping bags and our pillows like in our hands or like shoving what
Like
we
you're walking to your
yeah,
sleepover?
yeah. It wasn't like miles and miles, but we would go out to like, a little bit more of like a secluded area of the camp, and we would literally just like cowboy camp. Pitching a tent was not something that was like on our radars. It's just a funny experience, and thinking about that in the same way as like now I'm like, whoa, cowboy camping? Like that's a whole other level that I still feel like I need to
But
get
what
back
a
to.
fun experience for the kids too to
Yeah,
do,
yeah, and
so
we'd
yeah.
start we'd, start a fire from scratch, and we do all those things, and again, I don't think it was something that I was really thinking about at the time, but that was definitely some good preparation for what was to come, but, like, I think technically my first backpacking trip was probably, it's probably, like, not that long after I moved out here. I don't know if you're familiar with Hip Camp.
No.
They're an app that you can find different, like, campsites and book
Oh,
campsites.
yeah, no, yes, okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So when they were first getting off the ground, and I think they might still do this, but they would hire field scout photographers. And so basically what it was a way to get people who were maybe in the creative field or in photography, to go out to their different locations and take like a little bit more like aesthetic photos just to get the listings feeling a little bit more enticing. And so one of my assignments was this place in Angeles National Forest, which I was mentioning earlier isn't too far from here. And it's this cool, like, historic camp that's located out there, but it's a hike in. You have to take all of your stuff with you. And they have like little cabins and they have like a mess hall and some other like fun things there on the location. But that was a first for me, especially in Los Angeles, like, in a real mountainscape, like, definitely different from, what I was doing, growing up in Ohio. So, I was like, I really wanna shoot this place. It's, like, beautiful, but again, it's, like, hiking 4 miles, I think, up the trail to this location, but I didn't have I had, like, a 35 or, like, 40-liter backpack. And that was about it. Like, I didn't have any I didn't have any backpacking gear. But I was like, "We can do this, it's fine." And so naively, just put everything we had into that backpack, and then as far as food, I wasn't really savvy or, like, in the know about, like, dehydrated meals or, lightweight gear, anything like that, and so I literally had my husband carry a cooler pack, basically. 'Cause I was like, "We have to put our food," and it was, like, fresh food. I was like, "We're gonna bring zucchinis, we're gonna bring hamburger meat," like, it was
At least it was
all.
you said it was just 4 miles,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
and we weren't like,
not bad.
it's still pretty close to home, so if all else failed, like, we could have bailed very easily, but like, looking back on that, I'm like, "Oh my gosh," like, the things that I was just like, "We're just gonna do this, like, it's fine." I didn't really think twice about it, but it was a really, really cool experience, and, like, once we got up there, they had running water and they had, like a communal fire pit and all this neat stuff. But it was just kind of a magical experience. Being able to like wake up out there and then hike out was something that I wasn't used to. Being such a day hiker and exploring Los Angeles in particular on foot so much. So yeah, that was a really cool experience that kind of like piqued my interest on like, wait, there could be more that we could be doing. And it's like, are there more areas in Angeles or in the Sierra, or where can I go and kind of take this from here?
I could see how that would do that though, because
Yeah.
that does sound nice. Now did you say you slept in a cabin or you did have a
Yeah.
tent for that
So
trip?
we I didn't have a tent. I didn't even have a backpacking tent at the time, so it
Yeah.
wouldn't even be possible. But
You could have been like you were in camp and just carry
yeah, yeah, exactly,
carry
exactly.
it along with you.
Totally. So, yeah, we just brought, some I had a couple sleeping bags, but again, like, not very heavy, like, so we just, like, stuffed them in the pack, and they actually up there, they had, like, clean linens and things that you could put on, these, like, thin mattresses that were on these
Yeah.
bunk beds
Yeah.
and, very, very, like, summer camp style.
Gotcha, gotcha. That
But
does sound fun though.
it was great. Yeah, it was really fun. And that definitely got me thinking about like, "Oh, okay, where else could I go? What else could I do with this?"
What about that then really appealed to you? Was it the idea of trekking into a place that cars, like, most people don't have access to? Was that it? Or was there something else about it that appealed to you that you wanted to do more?
Yeah, I think I loved exactly that. It was like getting far enough into the mountains where it was very few and far between where we would see people,
Mhm.
and just waking up and being out there. It was different than like just regular, car camping. It felt like we had kind of achieved something too at the same time. There's like a
Mhm. Oh,
sense of
definitely. Yeah.
accomplishment. Yeah, and I kinda love the chores that come along with backpacking, like, I love the process of, getting things set up and, like, getting my pack all broken down and taking out, everything and setting up my
Something
meals.
meditative about that
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, so I think it was a lot of that, and again, just being able to, like, stay out under the stars and not have to feel like I have to rush back or, like, be up so early that I'm, wasting time. I really enjoyed, just being out there and kind of away in a way that I especially in the proximity of Los Angeles, it feels like, how could I be somewhere so quiet right now?
Somewhere like that where it's just mass chaos, people,
Yeah,
traffic,
yeah,
everything, and then you found a magical spot where it's quiet and you're
yeah,
away from everybody. Yeah,
yeah.
I can understand why that'd be appealing to you.
Yeah, magical definitely sums that up for sure.
You were just saying, you backpack with your husband for that one trip, but you also started solo backpacking.
Mhm, yeah.
What got you into that?
So I love, my husband obviously, but he does not have the same passion for backpacking that I do. And I think, me kind of throwing out ideas, he wasn't as excited about going to these places or you're making the effort and like staying multiple nights. Like I think he
Mm,
enjoys like more of like a one night out and back, which absolutely love as well. But
yeah,
there were just those trips that I was like, I really want to do this, and our schedules weren't aligning, or he just wasn't interested, and I would bail because I was like, I don't have anyone to go with, and I don't have a lot of friends here in Los Angeles who are still, like, interested in that, and I'm at the point in my life where a lot of my friends have, like, moved back to where they grew up. So it's and friends that I do have that like to backpack are, like, scattered throughout California, so we're, like, all on different schedules, and I got to the point where I was like, I feel like I just need to, like, get back out there and do this by myself. And I think growing up and kind of referencing back to, like, the days that I would, like, go back in my creek and I would just explore all by myself and, like, no one knew
mhm.
where I was. Didn't have, like, a GPS tracker, didn't have
No,
anything like that, but there was something really, really beautiful about that, just spending time, with myself and kind of having those more reflective, quiet moments that I think I was just really hungry for again, and realizing that, like, I wanted something that was gonna kind of challenge myself and get myself out of my comfort zone. Because I think, again,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah, especially when you have a partner, you're with them all the time, and it's amazing that you can be with someone like that, in your day to day, but we were very, like, dependent on each other.
Mhm,
It's also
mhm.
a way of, like, it's okay that we have some different interests, and it's okay if I go do things by myself and you do things by yourself, and we can still be happily married,
Oh, yeah, no, you need
you know?
that. You need that
Yeah,
in a
you need your own
relationship.
things,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Where did you go for your first solo backpacking trip?
Yeah, so I went, I did the Trans Catalina Trail, which was maybe a little bit of a bigger endeavor than I probably should have taken on as a first solo trip because it's, multi-night trip and
Mhm. Is that
it's
what, like 2 to 3 nights, right?
yeah, 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 and
Yeah.
I think I ended up only doing 2, but yeah, usually people do 3. You can extend it to be, 4 or 5, which would be really nice, but, in the time frame that I had, and we had some really bad storms right before that had washed out, like, the last section of trail, if you're familiar,
Oh,
like, Parsons Landing is, like, the
mhm.
beautiful area at the end. So I was just like, "I'm gonna do these 2 nights," and it's a lot of logistical preparation. So, like, you have to book all your campsites, and you have to book a ferry because it's,
Mhm. 'Cause it's
so
an
many miles.
island.
Yeah, yeah, which was really fun, but it was definitely a lot to undertake as, like, "Oh, doing
Especially
this
for
on
a
my own."
first trip.
Yeah, yeah. But I had built up, and I was trying like, the year before that, I knew I wanted to make it a goal, and it was actually really recently. It was only in 2024 that I had taken that first trip by myself. So in 2023, I purposefully, like, planned some group, um, backpacking trips up in the Sierra, and I did, like, a Half Dome trip with a guided group, because I just wanted to, like, feel like I had someone that I could lean on for questions and just making sure that I felt really comfortable, and I think after doing those trips, I was like, "Okay, like, I can do this by myself," and, the beautiful thing about Catalina, it was just that there is infrastructure there, and there's roads and, there's bathrooms and there's, potable water at different, campsites and things like that, so it's not, like, completely, like, isolated, and a lot of people are out there doing it, and there's also people on the island who are just recreating, they're bike riding, they're doing other things, so I think there was, like a sense of safety, I think, in it for me.
You knew
That
you weren't out in the wilderness, like, miles away from
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I could,
civilization.
like, still see
Yeah.
from where I was, yeah. So there was something
Still
about
had cell phone service. No.
yeah, yeah, I could, like, dial yeah, it was there was something just nice about, like, that, and also, at I will say, like, at one point um, that was difficult was I unexpectedly got my period while I was out
Oh,
there.
no.
Yeah, and
Yes.
being by myself was like, oh my god, like, it did feel like it was one of those trips where half the time I was like, "What how did I get myself into?" Like, the ferry ride was incredibly bumpy because we had a really big swell and a big storm, like, 2 days
Oh,
earlier.
I know what
So
that can
everyone
be
on the boat
like,
was like,
yes.
"Whoa."
Oh.
Yeah, and then I got off and I, like, texted my mom and I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what I'm." She's like, "Just go. You're fine." But that day with the first day of that trail is definitely a tough one. Like, you question yourself a lot, I think, and being alone was definitely making it harder because I had to, like, really push down those thoughts of, like, "Just turn back. Like, you don't need to do this." Um but yeah, after that first night, I fell asleep and I was, like, so happy to be asleep after such a long day, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, "Oh my god, started my period," and I had the worst cramps, and I was just like,
You're like, "What
"This is
great
not." Yeah,
timing."
like, and I wasn't expecting it, so I had, like, nothing, like, no feminine
Oh,
hygiene products with me. I was just so that's why I was really grateful again to, like, have facilities nearby, and, there's, like, the airport gift shop there on the island, and, of course, I went there and they didn't have anything, but I was able to at least, like, MacGyver some things
I was
to
gonna say at least, like, some toilet paper
yeah, I was
and
just, like, wadding to I was just like, "Get as much toilet paper, just take it with you, like, whatever you can do," but it was, like, frustrating in the moment, but looking back on it, I was like, those were really great moments of, like, being by myself, having to rely on myself to kind of problem solve and
you know
figure
what
out,
you can
like
accomplish on your
yeah,
own.
yeah,
Yeah,
how I
and
can
you know
get
what you're capable of, and what
yeah.
you can tolerate,
Yeah, and
what you can do.
that trail's beautiful, and like you said, it didn't feel like I was, like, up in the Sierras or the Rockies, like, really out there. The biggest thing I was actually worried about were the bison. I was, like, more afraid of that, and I
Mhm.
think still I'm more afraid of that than,
I
like
heard about the bison.
I didn't
I'm
see
like,
a single
"Bison in
one. Yeah,
California?"
I know, everyone sees them, I didn't see one, I just saw a lot of bison
That's
poo.
so
I know,
disappointing.
I was like, I wanted to, like, see one from afar, didn't
Yeah.
yeah, but
That's like I've been not the same thing, but I've been down in, like, Southern Florida or, like, on the Gulf of Florida many times, and I've
yeah.
yet to see a manatee in real life, and I'm
Oh,
just so
yeah.
mad about
Beautiful,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So I feel ya about getting mad about not
Yeah, you
seeing a
wanna see the
bison.
wildlife. I'm like, I was promised bison?
Yes, hello, where are they? Come
Yeah,
on.
so
But that sounds like a great, like, first solo backpacking trip. So,
mhm.
where I guess, what are some of the ones that you've done solo that you've really enjoyed that you would recommend to other people as a good solo backpacking trip?
Yeah, so since then, again, I think that was a great, like, test for me that really made me feel a lot more confident. I was like, "Okay, I can do this." So then getting up to, the Sierras, and that's, like, my home, like, big range. So I absolutely love the Eastern Sierra up there, and my first solo up there was the Sabrina Basin, and I think I camped at Blue Lake, and then just did some exploring around um, some of the higher elevation lakes and things in the area, and that was really great, and I kinda planned that strategically too, since that was my first solo backpacking trip in the Sierra. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go to a trail that I've done before, so I know where
That
I'm
makes
going, I
sense.
feel, like, comfortable on the trail, I know how to park, I know where to go."
Mhm.
There was
Yeah.
no
Parking's always the
anxiety,
big
yeah, the
thing,
only
yes.
thing I had to worry about was just, like, hiking.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend that for people who are considering, like, it is nice to have a little bit of, like, reconnaissance ahead of time. But I think now that I feel a little bit more comfortable, I've been more open to just kind of getting out and exploring places I haven't been before at all. This last year I did Paiute Pass, again up in the Eastern Sierra, and that was great. But I was supposed to do like 2, 3 nights up there. I was going to hike over the pass and camp up in the basin up there, but it ended up being this like crazy windstorm, and it wasn't
Oh, no.
forecasted. It was
Yeah.
yeah, so I was, like, hiking along, I was feeling really good, and then it was just, like, crazy wind, and I was like, "Okay, we're just gonna do one night, we're gonna stay down at Paiute Lake and just take it easy. But yeah, that was a rough one, and that was definitely another one of those like learning experiences, especially by yourself, where like mentally it was very challenging to just not give
Yes.
up or like give in to the elements, I guess.
I want to shift gears a little bit about still talking about backpacking, but I was, looking on your website, which we'll also talk about. And I was reading the story about how you and your brother did Mount Whitney. And I would
Yeah.
love to hear about that because that is a crazy awesome accomplishment.
Yeah, that was, like, one of the highlights, I think. Funny, it's, like, one of the highlights of my life, I think, so far. It was really a
I
really
would say
amazing
so.
yeah, it was beautiful. But I think it was funny because that was my first backpacking trip in the Eastern Sierra, and I
Okay.
think I was very naive about what I was getting into. I'd kinda, like, done some day hiking in the area, but I had never hiked above 11,000 feet. I Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I was just kind of in over my head, but I think my naivety was actually working as an advantage for me. Because I wasn't worrying about these things. But yeah, in 20s, I think it was like 2017, I had been out in Sequoia on a camping trip with some of my girlfriends, and we had like learned some things when we were there about the mountains, and I had like I don't know how it had taken me this long living in California to, like, realize that, like, the highest and lowest points in the contiguous United States are, like, 80 miles from each other, and Mount Whitney was just such an interesting peak to me. Like, I just really wanted to set it as a goal, and a bucket list thing for myself. But, I think I went back to Ohio for the holidays. My brother was there, and we were just kind of, I don't know, teasing each other about hiking and whatever, and he was talking about how, he'd climbed all these 14ers in Colorado. And I was like, "Well, if you wanna climb the biggest, you have to come to California." And he was like,
And
"Let's
he
do
said,
it."
challenge accepted.
Yeah, exactly. But I kinda just threw it out there in jest, like, we were just kinda chit-chatting about that, but it stuck, and then, I kinda put it out of my mind. I wasn't really thinking about it, and I think it was either March or April when it opens back up for the second time. My brother texted me and he was like, "I got overnight permits for Mount Whitney, the end of June or the beginning of July," something like that, and I was like, "What?" Like,
You're
"Oh,
like,
we're
hold on, I didn't
we're
agree to
doing this,
anything.
okay, yeah." But I was glad, like, I was glad it was great to have somebody just to, like, push you and be like, "We're doing this." Like, we've got each other. And my brother is definitely he likes to push his fitness in a different way than I do. He's like very, very meticulous about it. So he's definitely at a different like level than I am athletically. But we made a pact. We got there that day and like we made a pact. Like what we were gonna do is like every 500 feet we'll take a little break, and every 1,000 feet of elevation we will take a longer break, take our packs off. But I had never carried a pack that heavy before. Um, I think I
Yeah,
was
that's
like
especially that
yeah.
much elevation gain too over
Yeah, because
that,
before
yeah.
that, I think the before that, my last backpacking trip before that was my Angeles trip where I was, like, hiking with,
Where your husband was carrying all the food, right?
so at this point in time, like, I finally, like, accumulated a better pack, and I had, some lighter gear, but my gear was still pretty heavy. Like,
Still
I
pretty
was
high,
I was
yeah.
using, like, the REI starter pack, like,
Gotcha.
everything was definitely, I hadn't, like, narrowed in on sort of what fits for me really, and
Yeah.
so, that was definitely a wake-up call, like, getting on the trail with a 32 pound pack. I was like, "Whoa." Like, this is hard. This is really
That's
hard,
a
and that's
lot to carry up for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
especially on that climb because it has so much elevation gain, and especially in that like, first couple of miles before you get to Lone Pine Lake. But once we got past Lone Pine Lake, I felt like the views just open up there, and it's just, like, stunning all the way, and that was kind of
Yeah.
what made me fall in love with the Eastern Sierra. It's just, like, it's so beautiful up there, and it definitely made hiking with that pack much easier. But yeah, that was like my first real big backcountry overnight, which was really amazing because we got to split it up over 2 days. We didn't have to rush to try to get to the top in a day, and which I think is an amazing achievement in and of itself, but I like to take pictures, I like to take my time, you know?
I'm definitely a
Um
slower hiker when it comes to that
Yeah.
because I'm like,
Me
"Ooh,
too. Yeah,
yeah,
like, I
let me
need to
take."
take pictures, I
I'm
need
like
to
Wait,
Yeah,
so if this was, like, your first kinda, like, real big backpacking as opposed to the one that you did in Angeles,
yeah,
um, what did you do to prepare, especially because of that elevation,
yeah.
change and how high it was in elevation? Like, what did you do to prepare for that?
I trained, quote unquote, trained, did not train enough, but I tried to, work in like, there's a lot of really great information out there, especially here in Southern California to train for that particular hike, which is cool. So there's a lot of big, peaks down here. There's like the six pack Pika challenge or something like that. Um, and they all have really great elevation gain that can get you kind of prepared, so I kind of tried to work my way up, starting with, like, Mount Baden-Powell, and then we did, San Jacinto and a few others in the area that just had, like, a lot of elevation gain leading up to that, and then, like, Mount
Now
Baden-Powell in
and
particular.
how tall are those mountains?
So it ranges from, I wanna say around, like 9,800 to, I wanna say Jacinto is 11
Okay, so still
something,
pretty high where
or maybe 10
you'll feel
something.
the impact of that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know exactly, but they're not at that same level of elevation, and that was
Yeah.
definitely something that I would recommend preparing for more, or, like,
Mhm.
acclimating a little bit more, because we drove up there and we went right into the hike. And coming from sea level, that's intense for sure. Um, yeah, but we took, I think we took some Advil ahead of time, and we just kinda, again, paced ourselves really well, and having that night to sleep at trail camp before actually making our, like, push for the peak was definitely, like, so helpful, because I saw a
Oh, I'm
lot of people
sure.
out there who were just like, I think it doesn't it's such a straightforward trail that I think a lot of people are just, it's easy access. So a lot of people go out there and they're like, I can do this in a day, and it's not going to affect me. But the elevation gain is wild. And I remember seeing people who were just like so out of it and like being like, are you okay? Like, do you need anything? Do you need to go
Like,
back
do you need
down?
water?
Like,
Do you yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's intense, and, there's a lot of accidents up there every year, so
I'm
it
sure.
is yeah, definitely a serious hike, and we were worried the whole time about, there's this section of trail where there's, like, a railing, but the railing has completely pushed over basically by all of the snowpack and ice that accumulates there every
So it's
year.
more just decoration at this point?
Yeah, it's, like, more of, like, it's probably more of an obstacle at this point than anything.
Yeah.
The ice and snow wasn't really melting from that point, and that is, like, a crucial point in the 99 switchbacks that allows you to get through. So if you can't
Mhm.
get through that section, you have to take the chute, which I and my brother both, like, we're like, "We don't have mountaineering experience in that way."
Yeah.
We wanna be comfortable glissading and using an ice axe and all of that, and I was having, like, dreams about this section of trail. Like,
Nightmares.
I we got there and it was completely melted and it was fine, and
Oh, that's good.
yeah, it was great, but there were definitely, like, pieces of the trail that I think I was more worried about than I was actually of, like, the elevation or, like, the altitude sickness or anything like that. I was more concerned about the trail itself, which didn't end up being really an issue at all.
Now, did you like, considering that there might be, like, snow and ice on the trail, did you bring gear for that just in case? Or
I think we did bring, micro spikes. We definitely both overpacked. My brother definitely brought an ice axe, so we had things with us, but
just in case, yeah.
yeah, I
I
think for
forget
us.
that being up that high, even in July,
Yeah,
you can
exactly,
encounter
yeah.
ice and everything.
Yeah, the chute still had a lot of snow on it, and some people were still taking it, so it was something that we probably could have done better job of, like, I remember looking at the weather and trying to track things and all of that, but just having a good understanding of, like, what the trail was gonna be like, because we probably could have just left all that behind and saved ourselves a couple pounds.
Couple pounds, yeah, yeah, especially, like, the ice
But it's
axe, I can
always I'd always
imagine.
rather have those things than not, so
I know, it is like that weight, like, it's like, "Oh, is it better," like,
yeah,
is having the weight worse than not having the item?
yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. But now, did you have any, like, big takeaways from the hike that you learned? Obviously, you just said, like, learning, like, tracking, like, the weather and stuff like that. Anything else that you learned on that trip that you
Yeah.
now continue to use on your backpacking trips?
Yeah, I think, that for me was definitely, like, a great, learning experience around, like, packing the essentials and really, like, trying to kind of hone in on what works for me and realizing, and I feel like I still do this every time I go out and come back, but it's like, what didn't I use? And there were a lot of things that I didn't use, like, I brought, like, a notebook and I brought my Kindle and I I brought, like, all these things. I brought, like, another pair of a change of clothes, like, a completely separate change of clothes, like, and then something to sleep in, and for me, I've realized that, like, I can wear especially on, like, a one-night trip, like, I'll just wear the same thing. I don't
Yeah.
yeah, and then just have something fresh to sleep in. So I think that trip really opened my eyes to, like, the hike will be a lot more enjoyable if you're not carrying too much. And I'm still not like a super ultralight backpacker by any means. I'm still within like the 25 to 28-pound range. Um,
Uh-huh.
but those pound every ounce, every pound is so crucial.
And it starts to you can feel it more and more
Yeah,
every
yeah, the
mile
longer
that
you
you
go, it's
are
like,
hiking.
okay, yeah, so I think that was definitely a big learning experience for
Well,
me,
that's a good
yeah, and again, it was just one of those things where I was like a milestone and a moment, my brother and I it was great having a companion on that trail and, like, somebody that we could, kind of lift each other up as we were going and keep each other motivated, but we had moments to ourselves as well, and so it was a nice kind of reminder that, like, I can do hard things. I think it was, like, right before my either, like, my 29th or 30th birthday, so I was feeling like I need to do something to, like, prove I can still do, these hard things at this age, so yeah.
that's awesome. Well, it sounds I was when I was reading it, I was like, "Oh my goodness, what a great experience." So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, well, speaking of reading it, I was reading it on your website, and so I would love you to share about your website, because you have a lot of really good information on there.
Thank you. Yeah, I started Hikeology, gosh, it was like 2014, and, at the time, I think I was a little frustrated, especially here in Los Angeles, with, like, trying to track down information
Mhm.
about trails, and at the time, all trails didn't exist, or not I wasn't aware of it, and I
Maybe
don't
not
think
to
it
the
exists
extent,
yeah,
yeah.
the extent it is now, it might have been just, like, a website and I was reading blogs, and what I would basically do is, like, I'd have to screenshot blog posts about these trails because I wouldn't have service, and then so I had all these, like, photos of these blogs on my phone, and a lot of the times the pictures weren't great, and most of the people who were creating content were men, and there was a lot of really condescending language out there around, like, amateur hikers or, like, women wearing yoga pants, and it just frustrated me because I was like, "I wear yoga pants, and I wear them because they're comfortable and they're easy for me in these conditions." Like, I don't think we should be made fun of for the clothes that we wear. Women don't have access to as, like, much clothing in this space at the time as men did, so that was a little frustrating, and I was like, "I'm gonna start my own blog, and I'm a photographer, and I'm gonna get out there, and I'm gonna take pictures and make this, like, a really beautiful experience for people." It lasted for maybe, like, a month or 2, me, like, consistently getting out there and taking pictures because I was, like, taking my
It's a
phone with
lot of work.
it's so much work, and I give
Mhm.
everyone who does it more consistently, like, so much credit, and there's some really great, blogs out there. I think, like, Hike Speak is one that, I often refer to, and there's so much content in there. I don't know if it's specifically for just, California, but there's also, like, the hiking guy, and, like, he is amazing at that kind of content, but I was just feeling like there was, like, not a lot of female presence, in the space, and I wanted to try to make the space a little bit more inclusive for myself and for others. And just, it was a really good way to also force myself to like get out and see
Yeah.
parts of Los
Yeah.
Angeles that I'd never seen before and explore trails. It was like every weekend, it was like, okay, we're going to do this one this week. And planning that was really fun. So it fell off for a little while, but then I continued to just like keep up with Hikeology, but I never really put my face behind it. I always kind of kept it as this sort of like trail, trail stats and trail blog. And finally, one day, I work at a branding agency, and my one of my colleagues was like, "You need to show your face more, and you need to be like a part of your Instagram more because it's like it's so much more." It's just so much more engaging for people. So I was like, maybe I need to kind of change my like perspective and start blogging a little bit more, but also just like giving the trail stats, but also giving the story that I had behind the trail. And so that's what the website has kind of turned into.
I love it. I thought it was great going through your posts and learning a little bit more about you, but also and the trails and everything. So
Thank
I thought it
you.
was great. So
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm just like trying not to have like put so much pressure on it. It's like what if I can
oh
get
yeah.
out, I can get out. And if I can pay attention to my blog one weekend and actually update it, and
Yeah.
then I can. But I would love to be more consistent with it. But it's, like you said, it's a lot of work.
It
It's
is a lot of work, especially when you're working, full time
yeah,
and
yeah.
you got other things going on. So
Yeah.
but, so in addition to your website, then you also have social media. So what are your social media handles so everyone can find you?
Yeah, I go it that this is part of the, like, non-personal side of it, but I go by Hikeology. I'm mostly on Instagram. I have a TikTok. I think I have, like, 3 posts on my TikTok.
Yeah.
But I recently this year I started, using YouTube as well to kind of be
Okay.
piece of the story, and, that's been really fun because I think getting into video and, like, long form video.
Yeah, that is fun. Yeah.
I remember when Reels came out, I was like, "No, like, I am a photographer, I do static photos only, this is not gonna work for me," and now I actually really enjoy creating video content, it's kind of fun, and I've been doing it a lot more in my job as well, it's just, like, the way the world is going, so I
It
was like,
is. Yeah.
I think I wanna start playing around on YouTube," so I have a YouTube channel as well, same handle, try to keep things
Psychology.
consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well,
Yeah.
that's great. So people can follow along with your California adventures and
Yeah.
everything and everywhere else you're out there.
Yeah.
Um I do appreciate your time, and
No,
I
I
think
thank you, I appreciate
it's
yours as well, this has been
been
fun.
fantastic chatting with you. Before I let you go, I always like to ask everyone this question, and I know it's funny because on the East Coast, like this is like the two things that you're gonna hike to. So I know it's pretty like other people are like, wait, can I have another answer? But if you only have one kind of hike that you can do for the rest of your life, would you hike to somewhere with a gorgeous view, or would you hike somewhere with, like, a waterfall?
Mm, I think a view for me.
Yeah.
I love waterfalls, but I've been, like, I think, burned by too many waterfalls here in Los Angeles. You hike to a waterfall, and half the time it's dry.
We we have a waterfall not far from where I live, and it's, like, one of the closest ones, and I'm gonna put "waterfall" in quotes because it's,
Yeah.
like, really, really pitiful, but, like, the last 2 times I was there, it literally looked like someone just, like, left the hose on in their
Yeah,
backyard.
that's basically how it is
Yeah,
in LA half the time, yeah,
yeah,
which I mean,
yeah.
so we get really excited about waterfalls here, but, I love a big view, a big
Yeah, a
elevation.
view, yeah,
Yeah.
especially up in the
Yeah,
Sierras there,
yeah.
you got the alpine lakes and whatnot, you
Mhm.
got great views, so
Yeah.
but well, Emily, again, thank you so much for hanging out with
Thank
me,
you.
I've had a great time chatting with you, and I'm looking forward to following more about your adventures online and on your website and read more of your stories, so
Thank you so much, it's been a blast.
thank you for listening to Her Side of the Trail. There are more hiker stories to hear, so please follow along to hear them as soon as they come out. And if you like this episode, please share it with your friends or on social media. Her Side of the Trail is hosted and produced by me, Lauren Stites. I can't wait to share another hiker story with you next episode.